Hey everyone, welcome back to Blurred Lines, Crime, Conspiracy, and the Truth Behind the Gossip. I'm Ashtootrippy or Ashley. I'd like to welcome you guys back to another episode of Blurred Lines. So this is our updates podcast, and if you guys don't know, every Thursday we do a updates podcast where we talk about different true crime happening as well as a few other segments. And on Friday, I upload a episode that deep dives into a case that has happened in the true crime world or is currently happening right now. So welcome back everyone, and buckle up because I have a few cases that I want to talk to you about today. Before we get started here, I just want to remind you guys that you can listen to this podcast wherever it's available, as well as over on my YouTube channel. I do update and upload videos over on my YouTube channel every week where we're reading Shattered Silence, the untold story of a serial killer's daughter by Melissa G. Moore. I've also read Gypsy Rose Blanchard's My Time to Stand on there as well. That's all available, and I'm almost done with Shattered Silence, so be sure to subscribe over there. Be sure to subscribe also wherever you're listening to this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to rate the podcast as well. Also, a couple little tidbits here. If you guys don't follow me over on my TikTok channel, Ashtootrippy, go and follow me. Also, the podcast has a TikTok page as well, Blurred Lines Podcast. So go check it out and be sure you're following it. Now, again, I am searching for somebody that can produce music for me for the podcast. I actually have been getting a lot more traction since talking about the Angela Green missing persons case on Friday. So I'm really excited about that. And I have added a few other ways to listen to the podcast. I know a lot of people have been listening to it wherever it's available, and now it's available a few more places. I was able to actually get it put a couple of other places. Not too sure if people listen to it there, but it is available. If you guys are interested or want to help me out with any kind of music production and things like that for this podcast, Blurred Lines, I would love to hear from you. My email is ashtootrippy@gmail.com, and you can also send over any case suggestions or anything you'd like me to talk about over on that email address as well. Also, all my social media platforms, Ashtootrippy, TikTok, Instagram, those are all available to send me a direct message as well, and I will be sure to see it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was something I actually had just seen on my FYP on TikTok. And so I started looking into it, and it's really interesting to me because, again, we did cover in one of our deep dive episodes the Ladybird Lake killings and how they talked about that could possibly be a serial killer. But now there is talks that there is a serial killer on the loose in New England. So there's a lot of social media speculation about a serial killer in New England, with nearly 9,000 members in a Facebook group discussing recent body discoveries in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. Law enforcement has found 7 bodies in the region since March, some of which remain unidentified, but they are not currently connecting the cases despite online chatter linking them. So there's been a total of 7 bodies found between Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And the police are not putting any speculation on a serial killer, but a lot of people out in the public are definitely saying that this could be a serial killer. Author Maureen Boyle, who covered a previous serial killer case in New Bedford, is skeptical of a new serial killer and warns against online speculation that could harm real people and families involved in the case. I have got to say that when people say to not do this kind of speculation, they are people that are taking things as literally as possible, in my opinion. So I don't know why. It kind of irks me every time I hear people say we shouldn't talk about this, and also referring to the people in these cases as real people. I think as true crimers, if you don't automatically see people when stuff like this happens, there is something definitely wrong with you. Now, this has been since the beginning of March. There's been bodies discovered in Groton and Killingly, Connecticut, and they're close to the Rhode Island case case that's there is what as now, as far as right now. Law enforcement is really concerned, or not necessarily law enforcement, but they're really concerned about online talk that has been really loud recently. So Groton, Connecticut police issued a statement that said in part regarding references circulating on social media about incidents in the state of Rhode Island, we currently have no information connecting those events to any of the incidents in Groton. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. There was also in Massachusetts the discovery of a human skull in Plymouth, and another set of remains in Framingham is also being looked at. In 1980, there was a serial killer that struck New Bedford area where 9 women were murdered and 2 were still missing. And this is where the author Marian Boyle comes in. She actually wrote a that is called Shallow Graves. And she states that she's skeptical there's a serial killer at work right now. And she states, just because you have bodies found in a variety of places in New England, that does not mean that there's a serial killer on the loose in the area. This is not a game. These involve real people. These involve real families. This is serious business. Bet we weren't saying that when we wrote that Shallow Graves book, right? It just irritates me sometimes. Again, this is all solely my opinion, but it does irritate me sometimes when like authors or even more renowned like podcasters or news personalities come on and say, oh, this didn't happen, only because the police want them to come and alleviate some kind of speculation on their end. Simply saying that a variety of bodies are found, to my understanding, the Facebook group is a lot of armchair detectives, and I'm sure they have found similarities, but the cops aren't looking into it yet because the cops have their own protocols, you know what I mean? To say this, I feel like is very like a pick-me moves. Again, my opinion, I don't know who this Marian Boyle is, never even heard of the book at all. That, again, my opinion, that's the way it looks with that, and it looks like she's just trying to debunk a lot of things going on. And I'm sure if she was first to hear that news or first to catch it, she would be shouting it from the rooftops and not, you know, bringing in any kind of assistance for victims and or families. But that's just what I've been seeing. Again, don't know her, you know, those statements speak volumes to me. In the Framingham case and Middlesex County, DA Marian Ryan's office said it does not appear that foul play was a factor in this person's death. And in the case of the human skull recently discovered in the woods of Plymouth, the DA's office says the case is still under investigation. With 7 bodies found within a area, of course people are going to speculate that they're connected because they're found within an area. Even cases that are not found within a certain area are most of the time connected. We don't have any other information in regards to these bodies. I haven't looked at the Facebook group in regards to this case at all, but I am assuming that from what I've read, there is a lot of armchair detectives. They had made some connections, and to my understanding, the majority of the people found are women. And we do know that women are more of a target in these kind of cases. But in my opinion, I don't think it's public fear to say, hey, this may be a serial killer. Just like the whole Lady Bird Lake thing, like I was saying earlier. Just because things don't connect, or even just because bodies are found in an area, and to not speculate that they're not a serial killer is a little more dense than speculating there is a serial killer. You know what I mean? I'd rather be safe than sorry, and I'd rather have people on the lookout and their head on a swivel than actually be like, oh no, this isn't happening, and then, you know, somebody, God forbid, have this happen to. There has also been a survivor that was stabbed 26 times, and the survivor herself states that she thinks it was the work of the same person that murdered these 7 other victims. You know, that's coming from somebody that survived it. So I don't know, we'll keep an eye on this case. Honestly, I think that there's a lot of just pushing to the side just to kind of calm everybody down in a way. You know what I mean? Now, I know a lot of my true crimers are going to remember this, but it was one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history, where the lone racist gunman pleaded guilty on Monday to capital murder in a state district court. I don't know if you guys remember this, a racist attack at a Walmart in El Paso. He ended up killing 23 people in this. Patrick Crucisis was automatically sentenced to life in prison without parole. The chance of plea came after local prosecutors took the death penalty off the table. Crucisis, I'm sorry, I cannot say his last name, so I'm going to call him Patrick, has acknowledged that he targeted Hispanics on August 3rd, 2019, when he opened fire in a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. That was crowded with weekend shoppers not only from the U.S. but also from the Mexican border that is nearby. El Paso County District Attorney James Montoya declined to pursue the death penalty. Montoya says that decision was driven by most victims' relatives who want the case to be over, which is completely understandable. Patrick has already been sentenced to 90 consecutive life terms at the federal level after pleading guilty to hate crimes and weapons charges. About 100 people from victims' families were seated in the gallery behind a few rows reserved for media, prosecutors, and Patrick's defense team. Patrick, a white community college dropout, was 21 years old when police say he drove more than 700 miles to El Paso from his home near Dallas, Texas. Not long after posting a racist rant online that warned of a Hispanic invasion, quote unquote, he opened fire with an AK-style rifle inside and outside the store. Patrick was arrested shortly after. Joe Spencer, a defense attorney in the state and federal cases, said Patrick has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder that can be marked hallucinations, delusions, and mood swings, and has suffered from debilitating mental illness for most of his life, and stated, "You are talking about an individual with a broken brain. Welcome to the club, buddy." The people who were killed at Walmart ranged in age from 15-year-old high school athlete to elderly grandparents. They included immigrants, a retired city bus driver, a teacher, tradesmen, including a former iron worker, and several Mexican nationals who had crossed the U.S. border on their routine shopping trips. So I know some people may remember this story from back in 2019, but let me tell you that this story changed the way that I shop, changes the way that who I take shopping, changes the way I look at people when I am shopping. This is extremely close to where I live, and not only that, it was in El Paso, Texas, which is a border town. I live in a state that majority people are Hispanic and or of Mexican descent. To have somebody just so blatantly just hate these people so much that he decides he's going to walk into a Walmart where you go with not only your family but to do your shopping for special occasions, for just everyday items, and have something like this happen to you. It's affected me, and I think a lot of other people not only in that area but that live in regions that are similar to that demographic. I remember when this happened in 2019. It was right before COVID. Not right before, but it was before COVID. And I remember I did not want to take my kids into a Walmart anymore. I would go by myself. I would run in. Even to this day, I don't like being in Walmarts. It makes me nervous. I feel like there's too many people there. The same goes with places like malls and things like that. I don't know why. But this case has not only changed me, but I think it's changed a lot of people with the Hispanic background and the way they look at it. So it's nice to know that he will be serving pretty much life terms in prison. He's not going to be facing the death penalty. At first I was like, what the heck? Why did they take the death penalty off the table? But then I heard that, the relatives just wanted this case to be over, and I totally get that. I'm sure they're being affected by this every single day. This was a horrendous crime. It was one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. 23 people were killed. There was numerous people injured. I remember videos being on social media of people hiding under clothes racks, and the way that he was just blindly shooting at people. It was just so horrendous. So it's nice to know this, but at the same time, it's just, and then for his defense attorney to be like, oh, he has schizoaffective disorder and he has a broken brain. That doesn't give anybody the excuse to walk into a Walmart and do this, to alter the brain chemistry of so many people across the world, across the Latin community. It's insane for this to happen, and it's not okay. My thoughts and prayers are always with the families of these victims, and it's so sad. But I'm gonna leave the article down below so you guys can take a look at it if you guys want to look more into that case and you've never heard of it. I definitely encourage you to, especially showcasing the victims. There was a lot of impact statements that were stated, and I believe there was about 3 hours of victim impact statements that were given and stuff. So that was very eye-opening to me, and my thoughts and prayers are with the families of this horrendous crime. Now, I saw this case, and I wasn't gonna cover it, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to, because I have known people in my life that have dealt with quadriplegia as well as cerebral palsy and things like that. So this was very heartbreaking for me to see. So in Louisiana, a couple was charged with negligence in the death of a 7-year-old quadriplegic boy. So a woman and her boyfriend have been charged in connection with the death of their quadriplegic 7-year-old son, who died after they left him home alone for hours. Now, to my understanding, the mother was the child's mother, but the boyfriend was just the mother's boyfriend, so he was not the father. That's to my understanding, okay? The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office charged Carla Padilla, who's 22, and Jove Espinoz, who is 48 years old, with neglect homicide. Carla's son, the boy whose name is Christian Padilla, had cerebral palsy, and he died from natural causes per the coroner's office. He had special needs and required continuous supervision. Padilla and Vela left the boy home alone for at least 3 hours on Saturday and returned home to find him unresponsive. So again, he's a quadriplegic boy with cerebral palsy that needed continuous supervision, and they left him at home for what they say is 3 hours. Now, the couple did call for help shortly after 9 p.m., but they delayed that call for an unspecified amount of time. So they did find that they did not immediately get home and then call the police. They did delay it. Padilla, the boy's mom, is being held on a $200,000 bond, and the boyfriend is being held without any bond at all. This is a case that I am going to be following. This is a horrible case of neglect, and to readily know that your son needs continuous supervision and just casually go out for 3 hours to who knows where is the most concerning thing I've ever heard in my life. And I don't know how anybody can do that and then also find him deceased but then delay everything to contact the police is just astounding to me. So we're gonna continue following that, and hopefully that little boy Christian gets some justice. All right, so this was a case that actually happened back in February, but I have been seeing it a lot because there's a Florida couple that dismembered a 16-year-old Florida girl, and they have actually been in the courtroom recently. So I'm gonna go over this a little bit and give you some information. So Stephen Gress, who's 35, is accused of luring Miranda Corset through a social media application in February before he and his girlfriend Michelle Braids, who is 37, killed her around a week later, authorities allege. They were arrested last month and charged with first-degree murder. Gress was also charged with kidnapping and has pled not guilty in both charges. So the St. Petersburg police said Corset was staying with Gress and Brandeis after being lured to their home on February 14th. So this was for Valentine's Day. She was reported missing to the Gulfport Police Department on February 24th. Investigators believed a dispute happened February 20th and that Gress and Brandeis beat Corset. According to arrest affidavits, the couple repeatedly beat, quote unquote, and tortured her while they held her captive for a week and eventually suffocated her by stuffing a billiard ball into her mouth and wrapping her face with plastic wrap. So horrendous, so maniacal. For what? She was a 16-year-old girl. These were 30-year-old adults. Officials did not specifically stipulate what the reason for the dispute among Gress, Brandeis, and Corset was, but they said the couple, quote unquote, felt the victim had stolen a ring, according to affidavits. The defendant and co-defendant then dismembered the body of the victim and discarded the victim, Corset. The capital felony was a homicide and was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. The notice read, "I'm in a dumpster in Ruskin, Florida," the court documents say. A witness contacted police on March 6 to report information about a possible kidnapping and homicide of a missing teen, the St. Petersburg police said in a statement. During the investigation, detectives learned that Corset was allegedly lured through a social media app to meet Gress on February 14th, police said. After meeting him the first time, Corset went home. The next day, she returned to his home, where she remained with Gress and his domestic partner, Brandeis, according to police. After Corset was killed, Gress allegedly put her body in a car and drove to a house in Largo, St. Petersburg, police said. Evidence gathered at the Largo home indicated the body was dismembered, driven to Hillsborough County, and placed in a dumpster, police said. Officers said they located the dumpster and are working to find the body, so they have not yet found it. Gress was already in jail on unrelated charges. He was arrested on March 5th for pointing a harpoon at his domestic partner and for possession of drugs, according to police. The investigation remains active and more charges are expected, police said. So this is a case where basically a 35-year-old man lured a 16-year-old girl, and probably with hopes of being with her and being an older man and understanding her problems. And then it does sound to me like with the charges he was already on, it sounds like there was a lot of domestic issues with him and his girlfriend, Michelle. And it seems like this, I don't know, when I think about this, I don't know if it was the Ken and Barbie murders. I don't know if it was them or not, but there was one that I was listening to on Crime Junkies recently. They talk about, or no, it wasn't Crime Junkies, it was actually Park Predators, another one of the Crime Junkies other podcasts they do. And they were talking about this case where I want to say it was the Ken and Barbie killer, but I'm not 100% sure. And basically the girlfriend went along with all of the sick sexual fantasies that her boyfriend wanted to do because she was just trying to appease him and make him happy. This sounds a lot like that. It sounds like they were having issues, seeing as he was already in jail on pointing a harpoon at her. It's my understanding that that was his domestic partner, the same person that helped him do this horrendous crime to this 16-year-old girl. And to actually like torture her, I think the torture came in with drugs. I think when she went back to that home, this is all my opinion and speculation, I think when she went back to that home, they were probably on drugs and she didn't know what was going on, probably fed her some kind of drugs, and that's what they did for fun. And it's horrible. And the fact that she was basically put into this situation, most likely, and being told most likely that she was going to be loved and cared for by this person, is absolutely disgusting, in my opinion. Completely disgusting. And they should definitely rot in there for taking away such a young life, for sure. All right, so I haven't talked about this case much on my social media platforms or on the podcast, but I want to bring it up because it is a case that I will be following, and it's a case that I have been following kind of in the background. I want to let the trial kind of play out and stuff like that. Kei'Mani Latigue, her dad, her quote-unquote dad, because there's a lot of speculation on that, admits to killing her when she was found raped and abandoned in an abandoned home. So Darnell Jones, who's 33, he appeared in court last Friday. The Ohio man who allegedly killed his 13-year-old daughter last month, his bond was set to $4 million. on Friday. Kei'Mani had went missing from her grandmother's home, who had custody of her, and was later found deceased in a burned out house. Lucas County coroners believe Kei'Mani died from multiple incision wounds to the neck on March 24th. It was found she was raped and her hands were severed and her head nearly cut off. There was a lot of stab wounds to her neck. Before his arrest, Darnell Jones, on March 25th, Jones said he last saw Latigue on March 16th after she called and said she was afraid to be home alone. However, police said Jones provided inconsistent accounts of his correspondence with his daughter or her whereabouts. Now, I just want to kind of touch on this is Darnell Jones, to my understanding, as of where the case is now, it is not perceived that Darnell Jones is the actual biological father of Kei'Mani Latigue. I don't think any kind of DNA has been done, but this is what people have been saying. That was a father figure to her. Jones was apprehended in Columbus, where he allegedly pulled a gun on arresting police officers and begged to be killed. Police shot Jones during the March 25th ordeal, which also sparked a SWAT standoff. Prosecutors said in an affidavit filed on Friday that Jones admitted to this affidavit that he inflicted the wound that caused Latigue's death, per the Toledo Blade. In a second affidavit filed the same day, prosecutors claimed that Jones also stated that he quote-unquote dragged her involuntarily to the vacant house where he ultimately killed her. Jones pleaded not guilty to Latigue's abduction and murder in Toledo. An assault charge stemming from his arrest in Columbus was dropped so he could face the more serious charges in Toledo. Jones is due back in court when you're listening to this on Thursday, and I will include the information on all of that in the show notes below. Now, what I want you guys to know about this case is Kei'Mani Latigue, she was severely killed. This was not something that just accidentally happened. This was something that was brutal. There's been a lot of gossip about this case online. There's been a lot of interference from her real mother, her grandmother, and also people that were around, because this little girl was not with her in her mother's custody. She was in her grandmother's custody. And before she was in her grandmother's custody, she was actually in the custody of one of her mother's best friends. And she was, per her telling of it, she was not able to see Kei'Mani anymore. It was said that allegedly Darnell Jones took Kei'Mani to her mother's to see her for her birthday. And then after that, nobody really seen her. There is also speculation that she was taken to this abandoned home to pay a debt for Darnell Jones, and somebody took it too far. So we will be keeping an eye on this case, and I will be reporting on it as the trial comes out and as things start coming out, because as of right now, since he is being held on a $4 million bond, I'm pretty sure that they are looking at really rough charges on him, and we will be seeing a trial that's happening unless they give him some kind of plea deal, which I really hope they don't. But if you guys have seen this, this was a huge case out in Ohio. The home where she was found was basically covered in balloons. I haven't seen it recently. She was found in there nearly decapitated with her hands cut off. It is said that they cut off her hands because allegedly whoever helped Darnell do this, or if he did it, was because she had actually scratched whoever it was in the face, and they did not like that, so they retaliated in that way. But this is an absolutely devastating case, and every time I talk about it, I do get a little emotional, because for some reason these girls that are around this age that lose their lives, so just a whole bunch of nonsense that they could have, been these amazing people, is just, it always strikes me. So I wanted to also do a little bit of an update on the Madeline Soto case. So Stephen Stearns was actually back in the courthouse on April 22nd. So just on Tuesday, he was back in the courthouse, and his lawyers were basically trying to see about getting the hearing. There was a motion to push the suppression hearing. So basically I believe it's on Friday. I'm not 100% sure. It may be today when you're you're listening to this. But there is supposed to be a suppression hearing, and it's supposed to last about 3 hours. And they wanted to have that hearing pushed out due to the fact that they didn't have enough time to look at evidence. I was watching a video about it, and basically the hearing was denied to suppress it, or denied to move it, because basically his defense team has had a little over a year to get all of their stuff together. This is just absolutely insanity. I'm gonna leave an article from Fox Orlando about this whole entire case and the timelines in it. But if you guys don't know who Stephen Stearns is, he is the man that actually killed 13-year-old Madeline Soto. He was the boyfriend of her mother, Jennifer Soto. On this hearing that will be taking place, so I'm not too sure when the actual hearing takes place, but basically it presents all of the evidence, and it also presents the witnesses that they will also call. That's who will be in the courtroom when this takes place. I don't know if it's something that people are able to be in there, but to my understanding, everything will be public. He also tried to suppress that in a previous hearing as well. He was in the courthouse for this hearing on the 22nd, and his trial on the first-degree murder charges are currently scheduled to begin on September 22nd of 2025. Now, the trial that he's facing right now are for the 60 counts of sexual abuse and possession of child abuse, sexual abuse materials, because thousands of graphic photos were found of Maddie on his cell phone and also saved to a Google Drive account. And also in the past, he has tried to suppress the actual stuff that was found on his phone as well, and they denied that, as he had very evidently in all of the interviews with the police gave the police the access to that cell phone to do whatever they like to with it. So my hopes in this case is that he does get the death penalty at the end of the day, because I don't feel sorry for him in any way, shape, or form. I don't think he did it with a good conscience, and he cost a 13-year-old girl her whole entire life. Again, I don't know, these cases with girls that are between the ages of like 10 and 16 just always get to me, especially with Madeline Soto. She was such a huge light. I hope that he gets the highest of anything he can get, which again, since Florida is a death penalty state and they take protection of children very, very, very highly, don't foresee them going lightly on him. And the judge hasn't so far, because his defense team has tried to delay this case numerous times, at least 5 times since they've tried to start this, and I don't see them quitting anytime soon. I do think that they're just trying to do it just to delay things. They've said that's not why, but call a spade, you know what I mean? Alright guys, so those are all the cases I have for you today. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else. There's not too much going on in the TikTok world. I haven't really watched anything that I can review quite yet. I have a couple of movies that are on deck that I'm going to be reviewing soon. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you guys have any case suggestions or want me to talk about something, send me an email to ashtootrippy@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it next time, guys. See you next time.